So this is a slightly more updated version to the one that we saw in the previous webinar, and we're using the University of Cambridge here as an example. So previous demonstrations have all been very wireframe. This is a little bit more colourful. I will say a big caveat, this is a demonstration system. It is an alpha version of this, so if it falls over, feel free to laugh. I won't mind, it's likely to fall over. But we'll see how we go. So what we've got here is, this would basically be the public search page for the University of Cambridge, so people that haven't actually signed in as yet, don't have a login, don't have any reason to sign in, they just want to search and try and discover some information. In the same way as Google is very simple, this is very simple as well. Just one text box and you can type in anything you like and you'll get some search results. This screen isn't fully functional yet, but the idea here is that we would be able to refine down on the left hand side here the search results that you've got, because at some point there'll be thousands of documents in here and we'll need to be able to refine them a bit further. Alternatively, you can refine them further by continuing to search at this point in time as well. This will then list all of the things that come back from your search results. You can sort them and you can filter them, as I've said, and then you can go into the particular one that you're after by clicking on it, and we've got a landing page here. This displays the key information for in this particular case, a data set. And we've got here as an example that the status is published. This is out there for people to view. Other statuses like draft and pending approval will only be visible to people that actually use the application, so people that have signed in will get that kind of visibility. This is the sort of thing that the public would see from a Google search or something similar. And here, title, authors, you can have as many people associated with the research object. At the moment this example has only got one, but you could potentially have other editors, contributors and the like that would appear on the list as well. Likewise with organisations, you might have, for this example, it's funded by the University of Cambridge, but you might have other sponsors here, so you can have many different organisations associated with the research object. The screen here is just an example of where we have one. Abstract, you can have different types of descriptive text here, so you can have an abstract, you can have a description, you can have a table of contents, you can have various different features that you want to add to the research object, and they would be appearing on this page. And various other attributes, data attributes about the research object. This isn't necessarily the actual what you will see in the final product. This is an example of the sort of things that we can show, and we're going to take feedback as to what should be displayed here to the public and in what order. This is the current state of play, but we're happy to take feedback and change things. And then in this particular case, we've got 3 files that are added, and you have the ability to download. We get like how many views has it had, how many downloads has it had, and the ability to download it further. That will take us to another screen, which is very kind of very basic at the moment. This is something that's was created like yesterday, I think, the day before something, but it gives you an idea that you can go down to the file level and then you can see some information about the file, and again we can display some information about the file depending on the feedback from you guys. From here you'll be able to preview an embargo, and if you are signed in, at the moment I'm not, so this is clearly a bug, you would have to delete the file as well. But let's move on from there. So that's the landing page. You do have the ability to cite this document from here as well, or you will have at the moment. It's just a button. There's no feature there, but it is on its way. Depending on the university's takedown procedure, you might say this is public and we don't want it public. You can click this takedown button and go through the process of removing it from a public website. What I'll do now, we've got some about and help pages. They are just skeleton, so it's essentially just some basic text just to show that we will have that feature. And help is something that Don's working on. This will become more fully fledged. There will be help throughout the application as well, but this will be kind of like a central resource for help and contact details for the application. And let's sign in. So at the moment this is set up to use ORCID or a username and password, but as Matt said, we're looking at something like YouConfig integration instead. So this is an example because we haven't got to that point of actually developing the integrated authentication. But in theory, you'll be able to just click this button and you sign in using your ORCID details. So you don't have to remember another username and password. For this username and password down the bottom here, this is essentially for administrators of this particular system, so people that might want to add other users, for example. This gives you the ability to do that as well. We can look at that once we're logged in. So I'll just log in there, and you can see that essentially it's the same user interface, the search is still the same, the landing page is still the same, but we've got a few more options. Deposits, approvals, and users. This is because I'm a super user, or John Smith is a super user, so I have access to all this, but it's customizable according to roles. So you might have someone that submits data but doesn't approve. You might have someone that approves data but doesn't submit. You might have someone that just sets up users and doesn't do either of the other two, and it's entirely dependent on that kind of role-based scenario as to what tabs you'll get up here. If I just run quickly through from left to right, deposits, you get the ability to see what deposits you've made. This is all test data, so apologies if a lot of it doesn't make sense because it came out of my head. And we can see here that we've got two things that need attention for the current logged in user, for the John Smith in this case. We've got one that's pending approval. We've got one that's in draft, so I've started to create it. I've not actually submitted it for approval. It's not gone any further than just my little workspace. And we've got two that's published so far. If I go into create a new, we get the option at the moment of 3. I think we're going to change the order here of precedence. I believe dataset is the primary target for version 1. But at the moment it's listed in this order. You get the ability then to, let's do dataset as an example. I want to create a dataset. You'll be given the form to fill the dataset information in. If I was to go back and create an article, you'll see it's a very similar form, but it's just a different set of data attributes that you would need to add on this particular page. There's quite a lot to fill in, but we've tried to separate it down into kind of functional areas. And you'll be able to pick and choose which tab you go to. So you can come in, you can maybe upload the file, you can come back and then add your metadata afterwards. Or you could add some metadata, go to lunch, come back and add some organisation information. So there's really we're not forcing you down a particular avenue of filling the data in, and we're trying to make it as it's a bit of a cliched term, as user-friendly as we can. So we're really keen to get as much feedback as we can for how the flow works and if researchers would enjoy using the service. On here, there's a whole load of metadata. I'm sure you're probably aware of what the metadata is that you're likely to be capturing for an article or a data set or a thesis. I won't go too much into detail, but I'm happy to take questions after this if necessary. And you would go about typing things in. Just press the title. You can add a number of different descriptions which have a different type. So you could, as I said, you could have an abstract, you could have a description, you can have a table of contents that would appear on the landing page. And I'll add that here, and you can add as many as you like. So that's just added one to this grid, and you could add as many as you like, essentially. Bearing in mind that obviously if we do decide to put that on the landing page, then the landing page is going to get quite large, so we have to, it's a trade-off there. And this functionality is pretty much the same all the way down, so you can add as many keywords as you like. At the moment, it adds it to a grid because that's the quickest way that we could get this up and running, but that will probably more likely be a keywords like a lozenge approach or a space list or something like that, just to make the user interface a little bit less clunky for you guys, because it's just one text field. So anything that's just one text field, we're likely to make this a little bit more slick. But anything that you require more information to go into a grid, then it will probably be displayed in the grid, as I've got here with descriptions. You can add as many resource identifiers as you like, and they have types. We have a whole list of them. Again, feedback probably via Dom perhaps for things that you might want to see in this list or things that you never use anymore. But these are, as an example, based on Dom's canonical data model. He's done a lot of background into what is available in these drop-downs. And hopefully we're approaching the kind of list that you want to see. So I'll just do another one there, just to give you an idea. And again, that's added it to the grid. So this tab that I'm filling in here is about describing the article or the data set or whatever it is that you're adding, whatever resource type you're adding, with a whole load of extra features and fields that I really don't want to go into every single one, given the time that we've got. The next tab, the ability to add as many people. So for example, let's add myself. And I shall be the author in this particular case. And then I might also have some other person as one of the other many roles that we've added to the list at the moment. So Ms. Young might be editing my work. And you can do exactly the same thing with organisations. So you can have an organisation as a funder, as a sponsor, as a publisher, as various different organisation types. So you could potentially have a commercial funder. You could have schools maybe publishing, you could have like universities publishing yourself as a publisher, and here we've got an idea of the different types of organisation that you might have. Restrictions gives you the ability to specify the licenses that are appropriate and the rights to the document or to the data set that you're uploading. Upload, the key piece of actually adding a file. I'll just add a random text file that I've got here. You can see it's pending upload at the moment. You can assign restrictions at the file level, so you've got the ability to say that a particular file might be controlled access, whereas the resource is open. And then that will appear on the landing page as a controlled file, so you won't be able to then download it, for example. So you can go down to a granular level, at file level, to say, we don't want this to be freely available. We want it to be noted that it's on the research object, but not freely downloadable. And that's a similar drop down to the restrictions tab that you saw a minute ago, with the different licenses that you might associate with the file that you've uploaded, and the different access types. So for example, controlled or open and the like. I'll save those restrictions and may as well see if that'll upload. There we go. So that looked pretty quick, and I'm always amazed at the network at this place with that, because that is lightning quick. That's actually gone up to the API behind the scenes, and we've sent off a message to the preservation system as well. So I'll log in shortly to the preservation system and we'll see that it is actually already up in the preservation system. So we're not, it's a very small file, I agree, but we're not sitting here waiting 5 minutes for something to happen. We're trying to go very performant. Related identifiers gives you the ability to link this article to other articles out there, either published articles, newspapers, and the like. If I just give you an example here, we can say something supplements this resource or is a part of this resource. Maybe something has reviewed a resource, and then we could say it was any number of different identifiers. Again, feedback here, because some of these probably won't make sense, and we might be able to make them friendlier. And some of them maybe you won't want, and it's something that we definitely need some feedback on. So in my example, I shall have, I don't know, let's have an ISBN. We'll put in a random ISBN number. If that's a book, then that's a pretty good guess. And you can add as many related works as you want to this. And this is a way of joining up all of the data that you've got. So then we'll be able to say, once you've got this information in front of you, you found your resource, you're then going to be able to link to other resources because you've got these relationships. And that will really help users of the system to discover data. And finally, the submission page. So at the moment, it's just an empty screen. But here, we would be seeing, this is what you've done, this is what you filled in. Just check it over before you try and submit it for approval. So the reason it's not been done is because that is a very simple task that we can add on at the end. The idea is you'll have the option here to note that you may have missed out some mandatory fields, or you've missed a particular attribute that you wanted to add before you then submit it to an approver. Once it's submitted to an approver, obviously you wouldn't be able to approve your own, but approvers will be able to come in and have a look at a list of things that are awaiting approval. They can view them. It will take you to the landing page as before. So it's gone to the landing page. But because I'm logged in, I've got a whole row of features here as well. So I've got the ability as an approver now to reject it, provide a comment and reject it as to why I'm rejecting it. I've got the ability to approve it, which is essentially then going to make it available to be searched online. I've also got the ability to take it down. If I've had an email or I noticed that this shouldn't be up there for any reason, I can push the button here to take it down. And then that will appear on my dashboard or on an approver's dashboard under the hidden items, which is the last remaining tab that I've got to show you here. So this, for example, has been taken down for some reason, and we can then edit it and put it back up if we wanted to, or we could just leave it completely offline. The last tab is essentially just a user admin feature. I won't bore you with that. I'm sure you've probably seen lots of user admin features, the ability to add and edit users. And the other thing that you may have noticed, once you're logged in, you do have your account as well, which will have your information, your basic information. And if we are going to go for a username and password approach, the ability to change your password here as well. Chances are we'll be using some kind of SSO integrated system instead. And that is essentially it.